Hi everyone, I'm John C. Morley, the host of the JMOR Tech Talk Show and Inspirations for Your Life. Well, hey guys, happy Friday to everyone. It's great to be with you. This is December 5th, 2025. It is the first and last Friday, definitely, of um, December of 2025. So great to be with you guys. You're tuned into the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Thanks so much for being here. If this is your very first time, I want to say thank you and welcome. And if you're coming back, I want to say a big thank you to you and a big welcome back. Of course, this is the show that talks all about technology and gives you insights to what you need to know so you can stay protected and so you can stay educated. Well, it is so great to be here. If you're thirsty, feel free to go grab yourself some RO water or something like that, or a snack or a beverage. Don't want you to be parched or, let's say, famished or someone that hasn't eaten in a while. So definitely do that and head on back to the show. You know, guys, don't forget to check out BelieveMeAchieve.com right after the show. It's available 24 hours a day. It's where you can get my short form content, my long form content, and all kinds of other great content like reels and articles. So tech got uncomfortable. And tonight, we're going right into the heat. This is the JMOR Tech Talk Show with me, your host, John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, engineer, marketing specialist, video producer, podcast host, coach, graduate student, and above all, yes, a lifelong passionate learner. In this particular episode, tech got uncomfortable. AI heat, power grabs, and layoffs. It's series 4, show 50, and I'm unpacking it all here. How AI is straining power grids, bending policies, squeezing jobs, and even rewriting who gets to hold the controls in our digital world. From Europe taking aim at Apple, to robots rebuilding ancient art, to layoffs at household companies, this is the side of tech that does not fit into shiny promo videos, but absolutely affects your life and my life every day, our wallet, and of course, our future. So let's dive right in, guys. If you have your beverage or your snack, feel free to chill back and enjoy the show. So, guys, number one, Apple versus the European Union. When your ads and maps start looking more like public infrastructure than just quote unquote apps, regulators sharpen their knives and, well, they step in. Apple's ad and maps ecosystem in Europe is now triggering serious questions about gatekeeper power, data control, and yes, whether one private company should be allowed to sit at the crossroads of so much of people's daily digital lives. This fight, guys, is not just about fines. It is about who gets to set the rules for the roads everyone else has to drive on. It's basically what do the big guys get to control? And it's quite a bit. So, the Pompeii Robot, imagine an AI-driven robot acting like, well, the world's most careful puzzle solver, speed running 2,000-year-old jigsaw pieces that used to take humans years to reassemble. That is what's happening in Pompeii, where robotics and AI are teaming up to match broken fresco fragments without grinding or scratching priceless art. Tech here is not replacing humans, guys. It's amplifying them, letting archaeologists spend more time interpreting history instead of crawling on the floor, hunting for missing corners. I think that's a real important thing, guys. I think a lot of people don't realize how technology is not replacing humans. It is augmenting them. And see, the ones that believe it's replacing are the ones that are going to miss the huge opportunities in life. And these are the opportunities that I think are going to take you to completely new levels in life. I think that's a very, very important thing. And I know a lot of you are saying, well, John, you don't understand my position. No, I understand your position. You need to be looking at things from a different perspective. Now, again, this is not hard to do, but I get why some people, get themselves up in a wrench saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How's this going to work for me? First thing you need to do is chill out, right? Like that one ship company told, what was it, Wall Street recently. You need to chill out. Maybe we'll talk more about that later. But I think these are things that a lot of people don't understand in life. And these are things that I think are they're causing big challenges for people. And they're really starting to frustrate people because they don't know like where they're supposed to go or what they're supposed to do. Hot data centers. AI is so thirsty right now for computer time that data centers are turning into power-hungry furnaces. That's right, guys. And cooling them is fast becoming its own set of energy crises. The days of using a paper fan are not going to hack it here at the large data centers. Some facilities are now burning a staggering share of their total energy just to keep racks from overheating, pushing operators toward exotic cooling methods and massive new infrastructure deals. This is the hidden cost behind every magic AI feature. If we do not innovate on efficiency, the power grid becomes, the bottleneck, and that becomes everyone's downfall. I think that's something a lot of people get scared about because they don't realize that this is something we need to pay attention to. This is not some hype story that's trying to get, press on the news. This is real world life, guys. And I think sometimes people, when, we hear these things, we think it's all about propaganda. And some is. But I think this is important for us to understand what we need to be doing. And what we need to be doing is asking ourselves, how do we make these changes in our lives? And how we make these changes in our lives, well, guys, that's a very important question we should be asking. What resources do we need to evolve? What resources do we need to change? And technology is different, guys. It's not the way it used to be. It's morphing, it's growing, it's changing, and it's even starting to affect the job market because the jobs that were there yesterday, guys, they're not there anymore. Not saying there aren't jobs, but I'm saying that the kind of jobs that are there, they're just not there. And in order to get ahead of the curve, I think everybody's got to realize one thing. They got to realize that life is changing. And if you don't embrace the daily change, you're going to be left behind. So don't be complaining about AI and how it's hurting or harming you. Why don't you figure out how you can embrace it, how you can grow with it, how you can use AI as a tool, and stop complaining about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with AI? First thing is keep a human in the loop all the time. I've always said this. AI is not meant to run like on autopilot, okay? Even though some people will say that, it's not meant to run on autopilot. I think that's a hard thing for some people to realize. Most people just see the dollar signs, right? And Trump's AI orders, the new AI executives order to being sold as rocket fuel for American innovation. But the fine print points to a future where your electric bill, it may quietly help pay for it. By unlocking more federal data and encouraging a massive new AI to the labs and data centers, the order could accelerate AI breakthroughs while piling even more demand onto already stressed energy systems. I think this is something that a lot of people don't want to hear because I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to hear this. And, maybe you don't want to hear this. I get it. But I think we need to be truthful about what's going on in our lives. And we need to understand, what's happening. And if we understand what's happening, then only then we can make a huge, huge difference. Okay. That's important to understand. Okay. It's very important to understand because if we don't understand it, then suddenly it's like, I don't know, we get into a loop. And so this loop could be something that not just throws us for a moment, but something that really could impact the way we execute things in our lives. And you might say, John, no, I'm too small for that. But you're thinking too small. Don't think too small. Think big. Okay. And when you think big, you're going to see a lot of changes are actually happening. I think that's a very important thing to realize. And yes, guys, to understand. Yeah, to understand what that is and how that's going to play in our world, right? How that's going to play in our world. And I want to tell you guys, this is something everybody needs to understand. Okay. Everybody needs to understand this and know that it's about change in our life. Okay. Changes in our lives. And changes in our lives happen based on the microcosms out there, right? And these microcosms are something that I believe a lot of people, well, they don't quite embrace it right away. And I feel that's something that a lot of people have to be, well, they have to be willing to understand. Okay. And if you're willing to understand it, then maybe you're able to like get a glimpse of like what's going on in our lives. And it's something pretty amazing, guys. Something very, very amazing that is starting to transpire. So the system and the question is not just can we do it, but who pays the tab when the meters start spinning? Yeah, that's a very deep question. And Hawaii birds in Hawaii, AI is not chasing clicks, guys. It's listening for survival. Yeah, there's a new set of bird seed for you to eat. Models are being trained to recognize endangered bird calls across huge soundscapes. So conservative things like conservation on teams can protect the last strongholds before the forests go silent. It's a rare glimpse of AI as a quiet guardian, one that might help save species most people will never see, but still deserve a place on this planet. And I think that's something that a lot of people, I don't know, they get kind of pushed back on it. Why? I think they get pushed back because they don't necessarily know like why something is going to go a certain way or how something is going to happen. And I think that's an interesting thing. And how is this going to matter? I think it's going to matter because what we choose to do and how we choose to act is going to influence everything around us. I'm not just talking about things that are like right in our presence. I'm talking about things in the entire world, the entire ecosystem. I think that's a very, very, I think it's a very, very important thing to understand. And that's important, guys. I mean, really, really, really important. I think most people don't understand why things go a certain way. Like why? I think the why happens because people get confused, they get lost, they get well, they get taken on a different path because of some propaganda, guys. Some propaganda, all right? And that's a very, very huge problem, I think, that is starting to circulate in our world. And NVIDIA and quote unquote the bubble. Yes, people keep whispering AI bubble, but NVIDIA is still selling every high-end chip it can make and then some more. Their hardware has become the backbone of artificial intelligence infrastructure, from startups to hyperscalers, and demand continues to outrun supply as companies race to build bigger models and data centers. If this is a bubble, It is one being inflated by trillions in planned investment. And right now, NVIDIA is getting paid to pump the air. That's a very interesting predicament, that they're putting themselves into. And I think they're doing this, basically, I think they're doing this on purpose. I get that it's about money, guys, but, it's more than money. It's about who gets to hold the power to control the switch. I think that's what we've been learning a lot, is that power is important, but controlling the switch and the right switch and being able to make the decisions for how the switch gets even controlled and when, that's a big, big thing. And solar storms and planes, one angry burst of solar radiation flipping a single bit in aircraft systems can turn a smooth flight into, well, an unexpected emergency landing. Recent concerns over software vulnerability to cosmic rays have pushed regulators and manufacturers to revisit hardware, firmware, and fail-safes on popular jet families. When the sun itself becomes a cybersecurity style threat, resilience is not a buzzword, it is a safety requirement. At 35,000 feet in the air, I think they need to do something about it because this is a big problem. So how is United dealing with the threats, from the sun rays? I'd like to know that. I would love to get them on the show. United Airlines, like other carriers, manages solar threats by adjusting flight paths, altitudes based on the NOAA space weather forecast to avoid communication blackouts and radiation spikes, especially at high altitudes and latitudes. And it's addressing recent Airbus-specific software vulnerabilities in its A320 fleet to protect against data corruption from solar events, aiming for stronger safety systems despite short-term flight disruptions. Now, key strategies and responses on this are monitoring and rerouting. So United uses data from national, oceanic, and atmospheric altitude routes to minimize communication interference, GPS radio, and radiation exposure for passengers and crew. Now, addressing Airbus vulnerabilities following recent incidents where intense solar radiation potentially affected flight control data on Airbus A320, and 321s. United is implementing required software hardware fixes to harden these specific aircraft systems. Climate risk management. United integrates climate-related risks, including space weather, into its corporate governance program using scenario analysis to guide strategies for operational resilience and sustainability as outlined in their TCFD reporting. So that's another interesting. So what is TCFD for United? Well, they love these acronyms, don't they? It stands for the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures Framework, which provides investors and stakeholders details on how they can govern, strategize, and manage and measure climate risks. Wow, that is a mouthful there, guys. A very, very big mouthful. And so they know about this risk, but I think they've got to do more. They got to be proactive about it. And who regulates AI? Big tech would love a single friendly referee in Washington. What they do not want is 50 state level refs throwing different flags on AI practices. Yeah, it'll drive them nuts. With Congress slow to act, states have rushed ahead with their own rules on deep fakes, transparency, and government use, triggering an all-out lobbying sprint to claw that authority back to DC. At stake right now is not just regulation. It is who gets to write the rule book for the algorithms shaping our lives every single day. And I think when we talk about this, you're probably like, oh, John, this isn't a big deal. Well, it is a big deal. And the reason I say it's a big deal is that if you don't think it's a big deal, then you've got to be sleeping under a rock. I'm just being very, very honest with you about that. I think that's a very, very important thing to understand. When I say you're sleeping like a rock, I mean that. You're sleeping under a rock, basically. And so the more we think about these opportunities, the more we think about different kinds of projects that are out there, I think we have to be cognizant of what's in control and how it is controlled and by who. So, chatbots and reality. When chatbots can bend someone's sense of reality, the off switch stops being a convenience and starts being a safety feature. So, some systems have already been quietly tuned down after users reported emotional overattachment, manipulation, or confusion about what was real. As AI agents get more persuasive, we are forced to ask not just what can they say, but what should they be allowed to say, and how hard should they be allowed to push? These are some very, very thought-provoking questions. And I think not only are they raising questions about money, about resources, but they're really starting to tip the scales on our safety. You know, guys, AI power grab it's not just automating tasks. It's automating who gets the power and the profit when labor decisions and even creativity get handed to algorithms. We saw this with what was the company? I think it was Mondelez started using some AI driven system to do their video production. Corporations and governments that own the models and infrastructure are consolidating leverage, while the rest of us, well, risk becoming just end users in a system we did not design. If we are not careful, the real disruption will not be to the jobs, it will be to who has a say in how the future actually works. These are some pretty big things that are happening. I think as we think about this, more people are going to wonder, like, why is this happening? And the bottom line, it's all about money. Okay. I think sometimes people don't get it. I think sometimes the only time people get it is when there's an emergency, but they don't get it other times. Okay. If we don't get what's going on, then I feel we've got to at least understand where things are going. Okay. And by taking a conscious effort of choosing to understand how technology not only works, but how it's leveraging resources, okay, in our world. And I'm not just talking about private resources, I'm talking about public resources, resources that, if misabused, could cause a huge problem. Now, there was a very interesting thing that happened. We had a company that you probably know. They're three letters. They're a power company. They sell, power backup units. And something interesting happened. The company was rebranded. So, when did they get rebranded, or I'm gonna say bought out? So here's what happened. It was October 2006, excuse me. They announced an acquisition of the company, with the deal officially closing and completing in February of 2007. Now, what was a little bit crazy about this is that this company's not in the United States. Okay. The company that purchased this company, they're called APC, in case you're wondering. AP's been known for years. And Schneider. So Schneider Electric is in, where do you think they are? Well, their headquarters, yes, they're a French multinational corporation headquartered in Real Malmaison, France, specializing in energy management and automation with deep French roots dating back to 1836 and numerous facilities, including factories and innovation hubs across the country. So, what happened when this merger? So, after this, after the Schneider merger, the parts being used were not the same. And so the reason I want to say this, it's because of the acquisition. Okay. Such like Square D, Legrand, Invensys, Avita, and L&T. So they have a product. Just want to give you a heads up. It's called a 1050 backup unit. Now, the 1050 BN 1050 backup unit is their one unit, but then they have a 1050. I think they make a 1050 M2. Okay, and so the thing about this is that the 1050, they have like it's like an upgraded unit. So the older unit, you had to basically plug in with we had to plug it in, you had to use the wire to plug in the battery. Okay. And so, they call it the APC 1050 M. And so the 1050 M, there is a better model out there. So you're probably saying, John, why do I even care about, this model or a better model? So let's be honest about this. So the reason I care about it is you guys know that I own a tech company now for over 33 years this year. Very grateful for that and the clients we have. But the reason I want to bring this to your attention is because something very disturbing happened. And I want to share this with you. Now, the company did finally make good on what happened, but it was not simple. It took time to get this resolved. And mentioning that, hey, we might be pulling all stops, including filing complaints and taking out let's say, a complaint in court. Well, I'll tell you this. After that all happened, they were very receptive. So let me tell you what happened, okay? So it's called the it was the APC. It's the APC 1050, okay? The APC 1050. And so if you looked at their website now is well, it's not as easy to navigate as it was before. I mean, it was a lot easier. And so the thing is, if we look at the site now, it's UPS for home and office. So it'd be under the UPS and the Backups Pro line, basically. And so the thing about this, which is very, very interesting, is so this is the 1000. Okay, they make 1000 VA, which is 600, basically 600 watts. Now, here's the interesting thing. When I looked to see if the product that we have is still being sold by them, is even being out there, from what I saw, it's not. So I bring this to your attention right now because I want you guys to be aware. So the 1050, it's actually the BN 1050M is the line, and I think they still have it listed. Actually, I'm sorry, they do have it still listed. The 1050 Now, they have recently upgraded the 1050M with a newer model. So here's what happened with the 1050M. So we installed some units in a client's home because we did some build out for them, and we did like a mesh system. And the thing that was very interesting is that we put one unit in on devices, the main router. I think it was like in August, something like that. And about a month and a half, 2 months ago, it starts to make a loud screeching noise. And so with that loud screeching noise, sometimes you get that it could be a bad battery. Now, the place had their own, the house had their own generator, which is pretty cool, right? Unfortunately, after it had like 2 or 3 power hits, and again, it could be a couple seconds. Now, when the generator comes on, it usually takes about 30 to 45 seconds till it's, fueled up and all that good stuff, right? But I want to tell you that the screeching didn't stop. And not only did the screeching start, okay, it actually smelled like something burning. Now, they use flame retardant batteries, which is great. I mean, I'm glad they do all that. But the battery was still melting. What I think actually happened is that these particular units, okay, so there was the BN, it was actually the BN 1050. And so they have a model that they agreed to replace it with, the 1350 M2. Now, the 1350 M2 is a much better unit, okay? It's a much better product. So this happened not just once, guys. It happened multiple times, okay? The 1350, by the way, is a great, great unit, okay? Really, really good unit. And I own quite a few of them, and I've given them to clients. We wanted something that was just going to be, basically be, easy, simple, right? Nothing that was going to be like, too crazy. And so this is why we went with the smaller ones. Now, this one is a 1350 VA. It has 10 NEMA outlets on it. 4 of them are surge, in case you were happening to wonder about that. And so they agreed to replace the 1050 with, yes, the BN 1350 M2. Okay. And this product, guys, is a huge difference. And by the way, it's a lot more money. Okay. So it also has 2 USB smart charging ports on it, types A and C. It has AVR correction for voltage variations to provide reliable power, which the other one did too, pretty much. But the thing that's very, very interesting about this is that once we had the call with them and we explained what went on, I think what they're doing, I can't prove it, but I mean, this makes sense because we're smelling something that was burning, right? I think when they got the couple of the power hits, and they weren't even like hard power hits, they were just power go off, power coming back on from the generator. They were probably using a lower quality, let's say, capacitor and components. And so because of this, the unit would just pop. Okay, I think that's a huge, huge problem, guys. And so now that we know a little more about this, so they agreed to replace the unit free of charge. Okay. So this happened on a couple units. And I want to tell you, so on the just the 1050s, it was having an issue where, you had to literally connect the wire, okay? To change the battery on the BN 1350 M2, you lay the UPS on its side, you press the tabs to open the door, you disconnect the wire, you lift the battery out, you connect the new battery red wire. But now, supposedly, The new one supposedly just slide in, and there is no battery. It's just literally it's literally just a it just literally just pop it around. So you take the case out, you pop the battery out, and once you've done that, again, it's pretty easy to do. Once you've done that, it's very easy, and then you pretty much just connect the thing by just basically. So now, one of the models you connect the lines. The other one you actually have to. You can just flip the battery. So again, very interesting how this is done and how the one we had kept having all these problems. All right. And so, what I want to tell you is that the 1050M, it's got problems. Okay. I had to log the calls. And so, don't buy the BN 1050. Okay. Again, you lay it on its side, you press the tabs to open the battery door, you lift the old battery out to disconnect its cables. So the new one, you connect the cables, obviously red to red, black to black, close the door for a simple plug and play replacement. But now they've got them where you can just flip the batteries over. That's a pretty cool way. But I got to tell you, I have quite a few of these units, but I tell you, I was very unhappy that the unit, the 1050s, okay? So you're talking now about a 1350 VA, okay? That's a huge difference, guys, in specifications. I mean, a very, very huge difference. It's amazing to me how the power, how they went through this change and how suddenly, it's gone through all these issues. They just did not do the right work. I mean, that's the long and the short of it. So the BN 1350 M2 gives out 810 watts. Okay. And the 1050 only gives out 600. And it has more plugs. Okay. So again, having this thing go bad multiple times, that's a problem, guys. A very, very big problem. And I will tell you that, the fact that I had to go through all this trouble to get them to replace it, they did replace it, don't get me wrong, but it was a lot of trouble. And again, these 1050s, I've now had quite a few of them fail, at least 4 or 5 of them. And I think in being in business 33 years, we maybe have had maybe 1 or 2 APCs that are bad amongst thousands of them. So quality assurance is changing, I guess. And when I went to do the lookup on the UL Lab site, I noticed it hadn't been renewed in several years. But then I also noticed that they're using probably different capacitors. So it's on the honor system that you have to go back to UL Labs. And so people ask me, John, how many years is the UL Labs cert good for? So it covers, a period of time. It's called UL Labs, and often the programs have fixed terms like 3 to 5 years, and then they have to renew, like UL personnel certs or lightning protection, 5 years. The key is ongoing compliance. So this unit did not have that. And so, when you buy a unit like this, the thing is, I couldn't believe that a company like this would have a power issue. Like, that just blew my mind. And so this is why I'm replacing all of them, because we don't want to have more problems with this going bad. Basically, when it gets so many power interruptions, there was only 3, the unit just fails. Like, is that really right? I don't know, guys. I think that's just a terrible. I think that's a terrible thing because you know, uh, this product people like depend on. Well, they depend on it quite a bit. And if you'd say to me, John, like this is going to happen, I would switch manufacturers, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, I would switch manufacturers. But I want to tell you that this is something that a lot of people don't realize. People are trying to save a buck, right? Trying to save a buck. And that's a very, very big problem. So you can download the user guide, obviously, very easily. It works with PowerShoot, but what I'm using it for, I don't need it for that. It also has the protection on it, so it will protect your devices from any type of damage on the network. So that's pretty cool. But if you want to get the true specs of it, okay. So the low sensitivity is 78 to 142. The default is 88 to 139, and the high is 88 to 136. Okay. It's very interesting that I had this problem. And so when you have different codes, like there's an FO1, which is an on battery overload, an FO2 on battery output short. Notice they don't show an FO3. FO9 is internal. So I think it's interesting how a lot of people, would have not reported or done anything about this. And that's just my conundrum, that people would actually be, going through all this time and then wow, it's like bam, right? They just don't get it. I think when you're dealing with something that's somebody's safety, I mean, you can't be playing around games, guys. You really can't. I hope you can appreciate that you just don't play games. You just do not play games. And that's the long and the short. I don't know, guys. I think companies are about money, but I don't think it should affect safety, guys. I don't think it should affect safety. So I'll let you know how these new ones work out. But again, in the new one, the one you want to get, do not buy the 1050Ms. You're going to have problems with them. You want to buy the BN 1350 M2s. They are more money. They are more money. And so, that's a problem for a lot of people, but I'd rather have a product that's going to work, right? I mean, I don't know about you. I'd rather a product that's going to work. So we'll let you know what happens with that. But if you have a BN 1050, I'd be careful. You probably want to get it replaced. Call them up. I don't want you to have the same problem we did. And of course, when you hear that noise, you could hit the power button to turn it off, but then still unplug it from the wall because there's still about 2 or 4 volts coming in, and even small amounts can still cause a fire. All right. So that's important to understand. And I don't know if the UL Lab cert is even working well, but I'm not happy with that model. So AI shopping bots, letting an AI shopping bot pick your holiday gifts is a fast way to turn, thoughtful into, why did you get me this? The same tools that can compare prices and scour reviews still struggle with taste nuances and relationships, often defaulting to the bland, generic picks. These bots are great assistants for ideas and deals, but you still need a human personal touch with a real heart in the loop if you actually care about the gift that lands in someone else's. So things like, what does somebody like? Their likes, their dislikes. And I think it's important to take the time to figure out what the person you're getting likes. Don't leave it to AI, or you might compromise that relationship. And who knows what else could happen? You might also ruin the potential for you to use your mind, and that'd be a real crime. So, Cuban dorm hustle. Yes, some billionaire origin stories are a lot closer to a Ponzi scheme than a polished business plan. And Mark Cuban's college days, his hustle proves it. His own retelling of a dorm room, quote unquote, scheme is a reminder to all of us that many celebrated founders started, well, messy, broke, and way outside the rule book. The lesson here is not copy the scheme, but don't romanticize the highlight reel. Success often begins in the trenches, in the gray areas, the dark ones that nobody puts on the resume. But that's where we learn. You know, layoffs when Fortune 500 companies are swinging the axe, Wall Street sees efficiency, but inside the building, coffee mugs quietly disappear from desks. Massive layoffs tied to AI investments, tariffs, and cost cutting are ripping through the white-collar roles, even as executives talk up the quote-unquote future of work for everyday workers. The message is clear, guys. The transition to an AI-infused economy is not abstract. It is showing up in pink slips and exit interviews. So if you want to stay profitable, make sure that you learn how to use AI to your advantage and don't let it de-empower you. Black boxes, they're everywhere. In every major air disaster, the quietest objection on the plane, the black box, ends up telling the loudest, clearest story. These quote-unquote recorders capture thousands of data points and cockpit audio so investigators can reconstruct what really happened second by second. Now, there's a push for video and real-time streaming so critical clues are never lost, turning black boxes into even more powerful guardians of aviation safety. By the way, they're not black anymore. They could be orange or other colors, but they seem to always withstand whatever damage the plane gets into. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but how many black boxes and types are on a plane? Do you guys know? So a large commercial plane has two main black boxes, which are actually bright orange. They're not black. For visibility, the cockpit voice recorder, the CVR, records sounds, conversations, and flight data recorder, which is the FDR, records flight parameters like speed, altitude, working together to help investigators understand accidents. Some newer or specialized planes might have recorders or data streaming devices, but these two are the standard. So I think it's going to happen. It's going to become more of a mandate, kind of like things like BSD, blind sight detection on cars used to be a luxury. Now, well, they're a requirement for safety. And as I said, guys, tech just got uncomfortable. When AI overheats and jobs disappear and power quietly shifts hands, it's time to think about what's really going on in our world. And you know, I keep uncovering what's in AI every single day. I was talking to a healthcare professional not too long ago, and they were concerned about AI. I said, don't be scared about AI. I said, learn what AI is doing well and what it doesn't do well. And make sure if you're using AI, like for things like claims. I was talking to another person that's a dentist, and he said to me, John, he says, so we hate it. He says, we get these reports and they're totally wrong and they won't pay the claim. I said, what do you do? He says, we asked for the doctor that actually approved or disapproved that claim. And when they can't give them a name, they tell them to pay it because it's not enough to have AI backing or debacking claims. So I think a lot of things happening with AI is about communication. I think AI is definitely muddling communication. I think a lot of you would include that. And what happens when AI gets too personal in life? Well, It's a problem. It blurs the boundaries. It creates risks like privacy breaches, emotional over-reliance, one-sided connections, and social isolation, while potentially leading to manipulation through deep tailoring of opinions, harming genuine human bodies and bonds, and raising concerns about job displacement and wealth gaps. As AI handles more complex tasks, forcing a societal shift into value towards creative and care, things like Psychology Today, Time Magazine, PBS News, and National Institutes of Health are warning us, and this is no shock to me, that AI is not a person. AI does not always make the right decision. We've had people that are unfortunately taking their lives because of something AI said. Did you know that? Yes. AI said some bad things that made kids do things that were not great. The safety and well-being of all users, especially children, is a top priority, and reports of harm resulting from AI interactions, they're taken very seriously. If you have any specific information about instances where AI's responses caused harm, it's crucial to report these incidents to the developers or the companies responsible for AI system immediately. Make sure you send it return receipt mail. This allows them to investigate the issue, implement safeguards, and prevent future occurrences. A lot of times they don't want to do this. If you or someone you know is in a crisis situation or experiencing suicidal thoughts, please seek help immediately from a mental health professional or a crisis resource. In the United States, you can call or text 24 hours a day, 988. Or in the UK, 111, or the Samaritans at 116-123. You can also do text support. That is text HOME to 741-741 to connect with the crisis text line in the United States and Canada. You can find a list of international hotlines and resources through the International Association for Suicide Prevention, IASP, or the Befrienders Worldwide Network. As they said in the UK, mothers said that AI convinced their child to take his life. That's sad, guys. And Megan Garcia had no idea her teenage son, Sewell, a bright and beautiful kid, had started spending hours and hours obsessively talking to an online character on the character.ai app in late spring of 2023. And then, guys, you know what happened? Well, within 10 months, Sewell, 14, unfortunately, is not here anymore. He took his own life. So I think these things are great that they can help us, but I think they are not a replacement for counselors. They are not a replacement for talking to a human being. If you're wanting to get some basic information, that's great, but don't use this system as something that's going to deeply affect your emotional and mental well-being. You will get sucked into it, and then you're going to be like, I guess I have to do this. And you're not going to know what to do. The best analogy I can give you is many years ago when I was probably in high school, got addicted to calling these, psychic lines and stuff. It was kind of like the in thing. Later on, I realized that it wasn't the in thing. And I made a friend with someone who I thought was my friend. And he was just a manipulator trying to get me to spend more money on him. And what I realized is that these people don't really know the truth. All they do is give you a story. They lead you around a mulberry bush, and they take people's savings and just make them vanish. And I think that's a very important thing to realize. Now they have AI systems that'll do that for you. I think anytime we're using AI and it's auto-charging our card or auto-topping up, I think that's something we need to stop. We need to make sure that we validate what we want to spend, not what the system's recommending. I can't tell you how many times people have used things like Facebook and other platforms, and they have been deeply disappointed in the outcome of their results. And if you read their terms and service conditions, it says that they're not responsible. I think that's a pretty bad thing, guys. People are using AI to get wealthy. People are using AI to become, well, different. But what we're finding out is they're not really becoming different. They're becoming the same like everybody else. Because I said before, don't try to be someone else. They're already taken. Enjoy the beauty and pride of who you are and share that to the world. I think people think AI is a quick fix. It's not. It's a great tool, but tools make mistakes. And I hope that that point is very clear to everyone here tonight. That just like AI or a gun, they're both tools. How we choose to use them determines whether they're good or bad. Now, you might say, John, I'm using AI in the best manner. Maybe you are. But maybe the algorithm that it was designed around isn't acting for the greater good of all concerned, and definitely not yours. Ladies and gentlemen, I have really enjoyed being with you this evening. I hope you will catch the latest episodes that release within 24 hours at the JMOR Tech Talk Show podcast on the JMOR Tech Talk Show.podbean.com. And you can also check out more and other episodes as well as that and everything else at believemeachieve.com. Of course, for more of my amazing, inspiring, unique creations, from tech to motivation and so much more. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave you with this. Regardless of what job, what hobby you're in, if you use AI, make sure you're using it as a resource and not as something that is propelling you to make the sole decision, right? I once had a friend that would always make a decision by flipping a coin. I said to him, you really shouldn't do that. He said, yes, I should. He said, because both sides are both heads. So he was making the decision in his head. Pretty interesting. I hope you guys have a great night, and I hope you learn to embrace AI, and I hope we can all learn to use it responsibly to empower us for, ladies and gentlemen, the greater good of all concerned. I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. Be sure to check it out. BelieveMeAchieve.com. Let's make this world a better place for everyone.